Hello, hello, hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Hello, hello, hello. We're going to talk about Tesla mostly in this video. We got a little bit of SpaceX for you, got a little bit of other stuff. But the big thing that really stood out to me recently was Elon dropping this bomb that we expect to build chips at higher volumes ultimately than all other AI chips combined. Read that sentence again, as I am not kidding. And I'll dive into that and we'll talk about some other things, but I just wanted to get you started. This is where we're going. So Elon, the larger post, Elon says most people don't know Tesla has had an advanced AI chip and board engineering team for many years. For those of us who followed closely, we know about Dojo. We also know about the hardware 3 chip and the hardware 4 chip, which is now the AI 4 chip. AI 5 is coming soon, AI 6 and all that. So that team's already designed and deployed several million AI chips in our cars and data centers. So we have about 8 million Teslas on the road that have either hardware 3 or AI 4. And then you have data centers that use the AI 4 chips. I don't think they use hardware 3, but I'm not sure. They're primarily using NVIDIA chips. They may use some Dojo chips, but they do use some AI 4 chips as well. These chips are what enable Tesla to be the leader in real world AI. The current version in cars is AI 4. We're close to taping out AI 5 and are starting work on AI 6. So AI 5 is the chip that I think we're looking at mass production really late 2026, early 2027. I think he's pushed it back to 2027. I think the AI 4 hardware is doing so well at self-driving, and Optimus is not going to be produced in the volume that would need AI 5 until later. So they can run Optimus on AI 4 and they can train it and they can do some meaningful things on AI 4, and they're not ready to produce it at the scale and have the AI at scale to really be able to take advantage of what AI 5 will be. So our goal is to bring a new AI chip design to volume production every 12 months. So this is a little bit like, if you're following Elon, like, well, wait a minute, AI 4 took forever to come out. AI 5 is taking forever to come out after AI 4. So is something changing in the way Tesla's chip team operates that's going to lead to this new AI chip going to volume production every 12 months? What has changed? I don't know what has changed. I'm not saying something hasn't changed, but this is one of those Elon time things where you're like, really, Elon? Every 12 months? I think he wants it to be that way. I don't know whether it will be that way. Thank you, Exploring Adventures. Um, and hello to everybody. So what the cop? Well, Brian and I had what did we have? Like a late lunch or dessert today, and we might see each other tomorrow. So this is the big line. We expect to build chips at higher volumes ultimately than all other AI chips combined. Read that sentence again, as I'm not kidding. And I'll go through a little bit more on this. These chips will profoundly change the world in positive ways, saving millions of lives due to safer driving and providing advanced medical care to all people via Optimus. I think a lot of different ways. I think a really good example is if Optimus does work on roofs so that humans don't work. If Optimus does dangerous work, it could be like roofing work, it could be other kinds of work. If Optimus does dangerous work and relieves humans of doing dangerous work, that saves lives. But honestly, just the driving alone saves 1 million lives a year. So in 2 years, you've saved millions of lives just on the driving. And then he's encouraging people to apply to Tesla to work on AI chips, looking for people interested in applying cutting edge AI to chip design. And, what are your 3 bullet points about what shows that you're exceptional? I'm not exceptional, I don't think. I appreciate people who say otherwise. But, and Elon pointed out he's deeply involved in the chip design, meet with the engineering team every Tuesday and Saturday. The Saturday meetings are short term and will no longer be needed in a few months when AI 5 is taped out. Taped out, I believe, means they know what they're going to be building, and then it's the process of getting it to actual production. Investing, whatever says Optimus is coming, Elon said big time. If you think about it, if you believe that Optimus is going to be produced 100 million Optimus a year, maybe 1 billion Optimus a year, Elon's thinking 1 billion a year. I don't know whether we get to 1 billion a year. I think it's more than that. But 1 billion Optimus a year would be 1 billion chips a year. That's a lot of AI chips. Also, Elon, we're going to see later, Elon's been talking about solar AI satellites, solar powered AI satellites that are going to be effectively AI data centers in space. And those would presumably use Tesla's AI hardware. Maybe they're planning on using NVIDIA hardware as well, but that's an interesting detail. So Elon, I think this is a few days ago now. Elon said Starship should be able to deliver around 300 gigawatts per year of solar-powered AI satellites to orbit, maybe 500 gigawatts. The per year part is what makes this such a big deal. So the underlying issue here is AI advocates want to build larger and larger data centers. Larger and larger data centers require permitting, they require water, they require electricity generation. And outside of China, it's becoming difficult to get the electricity you need, to get the water you need, to get permits from, you get communities who are like, well, we don't want this AI data center here that just happened somewhere that they sent. I think it was a Microsoft or Google AI data center packing because, it's going to drive up the price of our electricity or it's going to use excess water. They don't really use that much water, but they get blamed for it. But if you go into space, then cooling doesn't require water. Cooling is a challenge, but it doesn't require water. You don't need permits. There's no, you're not next door to somebody. You're not raising somebody's electricity rates. You're generating electricity from the sun. And as Elon said in a recent interview, it's always sunny in space. It just sounded so cheerful the way he said it. In case you didn't catch that, that's one of my favorite Elon lines right now. I'm wearing "Turn Impossible into Late," which is an Elon line, but maybe I need a shirt that says "It's always sunny in space." I think that I need a new shirt. So, average U.S. electricity consumption is around 500 gigawatts. So if Starship launches 300 gigawatts a year in 2 years, AI in space would exceed the entire U.S. economy in intelligence processing. Solar cell production for terrestrial application is far above this number at 1,500 gigawatts of annual production capacity. So there's lots of solar cells being produced primarily in China. Tonnage to orbit solved by Starship. Chip production is therefore the major piece of the puzzle to be solved. So the Tesla Terafab is needed for this. I have a previous video where I talked about Tesla Terafab. There's otherwise no solution at sufficient scale. I thought NVIDIA intends to scale their production to be able to produce enough chips, but maybe NVIDIA, as big as they're aiming for, is not planning to scale production that much. AMD, et cetera, the other AI hardware manufacturers. So Elon is saying we're going to have to produce a crap ton of chips. These numbers are immense by earthly standards, but don't register materially on the Kardashev 2 scale. For that, this is where Elon starts going out there into space, and there's more coming here. For that, lunar production of solar-powered AI satellites is needed to take things to the 100 plus terawatts per year level. And, I think what we're going for here is Elon is envisioning an AI system that, as AI systems grow, as AI models grow, as AI hardware grows, intelligence seems to grow with it. It doesn't seem like we've hit a limit, the scaling laws, whatever you want to call it. The bigger you make the systems, the smarter they are. Just sort of like the human brain is the largest animal brain. We're going to talk about animal brains versus digital brains in a little bit later. So if, the vision is, well, let's make bigger and bigger brains, and we don't see a limit to that enabling greater and greater intelligence. So, you're going from gigawatts a year to now hundreds of terawatts a year. That's a crazy amount of intelligence to deploy, but that's what Elon is going for. And it's really, really big thing. This is not next year. This is not 5 years. It's probably significantly more than 10 years to get to the point that you're doing even 300 gigawatts a year. Although you have the solar, you have the launch capacity, so you just need the AI chips. So Terafab is coming. I don't, judging by Elon, the way Elon does things, my guess is Terafab starts ramping up 3 or 4 years from now. That's a guess. And it's only a guess. So Elon talked about this again, and he said manufacturing on the moon and a mass driver enables greater than 100 terawatts a year. So at some point, it would be so cool to see this in action. James Douma, one of my favorite people if you don't follow James Douma, I would encourage you to follow James. He's sort of like the poor man's Andrei Karpathy, and we'll be hearing from Karpathy later in this video. But, this is, we're really heading into science fiction territory here. Manufacturing on the moon. And Elon has a plan for manufacturing the moon. I think the moon has a lot of the resources you need to manufacture solar cells, maybe, and AI hardware. I don't know where he gets there. I don't know how far in the future he sees manufacturing on the moon, but Starship is going to enable manufacturing on the moon. And It's interesting that on the one hand he has the goal of getting humanity to Mars, but he seems to have adopted a different goal, which is let's build massive, massive, massive artificial intelligence, and I love that. AJ on Herbert claims that China's tax credit ended after this year, causing the numbers to be inflated. Any thoughts? I don't follow AJ. I think that information coming out of China is all over the map, and I don't think it's easy to figure out what they mean by that. But I don't. AJ blocked me a long time ago. I think you're talking about Al and Joe. He blocked me. I blocked him. I don't understand what's going. I don't find him a reliable source anymore. I'm not saying he's wrong. I generally don't follow him and find him a reliable source. I don't see him anymore because he blocked me and I blocked him, whatever. So a little detail here. We talk about expanding electricity generation on Earth, but when you start getting to Kardashev terms, even Kardashev 1, you start getting to the point where if you try to generate a lot of electricity on Earth, you start to heat up the planet. And you melt, you don't want to melt Earth. So the amount of electricity you want to generate to be able to power massive scale AI, you have to go solar, eventually galactic for Kardashev 3. But I think we could Kardashev 3 off a little more than 20 years. Even getting a fraction of Kardashev 2 is probably more than 20 years. But Elon's point is that the sun is 99.8% of all mass in our solar system. Even if you burn Jupiter and everything that is not the sun in a fusion reactor, the sun would still round up to 100% of all energy. The sun is all that matters long term. And there's this video that he's sharing, and you can see, Jupiter is the largest of the 4 planets that are visible, the gas giants that are visible, and you just see like a tiny bit of the sun. The sun is massive, just insanely massive. Probably more dense than Jupiter as well, I think. Earth is hot enough. Yeah, so that's turning now to more practical short-term news. FSD 14.2 appears to be coming out or out. Others have posted about it. Elon posted about it as well. I think the big thing, upgraded the neural network vision encoder, leveraging higher resolution features to further improve scenarios, like handling emergency vehicles, obstacles on the road, and human gestures. Added arrival options to select where FSD should park. Added handling to pull over or yield for emergency vehicles. Added navigation and routine routing into the vision-based neural network for real-time handling of blocked roads and detours. That's interesting. Added additional speed profile to further customize driving style preference. I wonder if that means you'll be able to tell it, I want this to be more maximum speed. Improved handling for static and dynamic gates. Interesting. You go way back, gates were a problem. It's getting better at gates. Offsetting for road debris, handling. So there's improvements in 14.2. Devin Olson writes about his drive, said it feels like it's really good. Elon said 14.3 is where the last piece of the puzzle finally lands. What's the last big piece? Does this mean that FSD is going to another level? And I'm just, Green the Only posted this. Green the Only is an account who seems to get access to details in FSD software that the rest of us don't see. He's been doing this for years, and he says there's a curiously named geofence region called Bay Area Unsupervised California DMV. Bay unsupervised. So like unsupervised FSD, maybe 14.3 is unsupervised. That's the best guess, or my best guess. So now a loosely related detail. So FSD is in place in the United States and Canada. I'm not sure about Mexico. It is in place in China. I believe it is operating in Australia. I think there may be 2 or 3 other countries where it's happening. Europe has been a holdout. I have been predicting that Europe will be a holdout. And not just me. But Tesla Europe posted that they've been working hard towards shipping FSD in Europe for over 12 months now. We've given FSD demos to regulators of almost every EU country. We requested early access, pilot lease programs, or exemptions where possible. We have developed, and this is there's a lot more coming here. We've developed and shared detailed safety evidence for FSD, now public in our latest safety report, and we've driven over 1 million kilometers on EU roads across 17 different countries. Our main path to success is partnering with the Dutch Approval Authority. This involves proving compliance with existing regulations, filing an exemption for yet-to-be regulated behaviors, like level 2 systems off highway, system-initiated lane changes, and hands off the wheel, etc. Some of these regulations are outdated and rules-based, which makes FSD illegal in its current form. Now, Mark Andreessen, P. Marca, the founder of Andreessen Horowitz, one of the early internet pioneers, said it a couple times. He said that basically everything that AI is going to do is already illegal in Europe. Europe is just getting in its own way as much as possible. So changing FSD to be compliant with these rules would make it unsafe and unusable in many cases. While we've changed FSD to be maximally compliant where logical and reasonable, we won't sacrifice the safety of a proven system or materially deteriorate customer usability. As a result, we are gathering evidence to get exemptions on a specific rule-by-rule basis. Unfortunately, the real-world fleet-proven safety wins alone are considered insufficient. Regulators don't care that it's proven safe. European regulators do not feel that that's sufficient. So RDW, which is the Dutch, is committed to granting Netherlands national approval in February 2026. Please contact them by a link below to express your excitement and thank them for making this happen as soon as possible. Upon Netherlands national approval, other EU countries can immediately recognize the exemption and also allow rollout. So I'm not confident of this. I don't trust European countries. It seems like Tesla thinks that the Dutch are going to allow FSD, and that will allow it to roll out across Europe, and that will, because my picture of what's coming is robotaxi's coming. It's already here in the United States. Robotaxi will be approved in most of the United States. California, Texas, Florida, several other states get you to about half the U.S. population. New York, Massachusetts, Illinois might hold out, but largely the United States will roll over and allow robotaxi, which it should. China will probably adopt robotaxi because China likes that stuff and they know it'll make their economy more efficient and they don't want to fall behind. There may be a few other countries that are smaller that will go for it, but Europe is, the largest block that matters. Japan, I think Japan might go for it, and Japan matters. Japan is a very large market, but Europe as a whole is a very large market, and I just think Europe keeps shooting themselves in the foot, and they will continue to shoot themselves in the foot. So I'm not so others are optimistic that this will happen February 2026. I'm not optimistic. I think Europe will find a way to screw it up. But we'll find out. Let's hope they're all right. I'm just going to look in the chat before we go on. What I wanted, do not exceed speed limit and buy more than X. Yeah, I mean, that's there. One of Elon's favorite books is The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Heinlein. It has an AGI computer on the moon and a mass driver. Yeah, Elon has gets a lot of things from science fiction, but science fiction authors, the good science fiction authors, see what's potentially possible through physics, and Elon just follows along with that, because he cares about that. Grok 1469420 says 14.3 is the one with 10x parameters, ain't it? It might be. Elon said we're not far from people being able to text an FSD. We give this guy 12 tranches, and this guy says, hold my beer. Exactly. I would not put it past regulators to create an autonomous regulatory structure that requires two different methods to drive. Yeah, are they going to impose LiDAR? Are they going to impose radar? Who knows what they're going to do? The way Europe goes will be for Mercedes and BMW to choose for FSD. I just think that they're not going to be able to pull it off. But we'll see. Like, I'm hopeful that Europe surprises us all. I just don't think so. All right, so this is a personal thing I'm going to share right now. Personal accomplishment. This is me. Sorry for going off on a tangent here, but this is me doing bench press. I've been working on my strength training and cardio fitness for 4 years, and this is an ego goal. And it's not necessarily a good goal, but this is 100 kilograms or 220 pounds if you're not familiar with the metric system. And I'm about to lift 100 kilograms one time. Yes, I know I should have a spotter. But this is the first time in my life that I've benched my own weight, because I weigh 99 kilograms and I just benched 100. And it's the first time I benched 100 kilograms. I benched 95 earlier the same day. And I just want to encourage people, that's just one little piece of my fitness journey. About 4 years ago, I decided I wanted to have kids again at 55 years old. And I realized, well, if I'm going to have kids, I need to be healthy for them. So I've been doing crazy cardio fitness. My blood pressure is like 110/60. My resting pulse is like 50. I've been doing strength training, and you just saw I bench pressed 100 kilograms. I'm doing chin-ups and pull-ups. I'm doing weighted chin-ups and pull-ups and dips. I work on mobility. I work on a variety of things. And I'm just telling you, this is a journey that I've been on for a while. And my big message to you is I want to encourage you to do something. I train a lot. And I enjoy it. I like one friend I talked to in particular, he just doesn't like it, right? I really do enjoy it. And I think if you could just go to the gym twice a week for 30 minutes each, 10 minutes on a treadmill or a bike, 10 minutes lifting something heavy. And then don't go too heavy and work your way up and be gradual in what you do. But if you just do 2 days a week, 30 minutes each. And then over time, and my big advice there is find the things at the gym that you like doing the most or the things that you hate doing the least and do those things. Because it doesn't really matter. I could get into like, oh, do this, 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 and this, do compound exercises, do isolation exercises, do high intensity interval training, cardio, do zone 2 I can get it all. But the simple reality is if you just go to the gym and do something, you're better than doing nothing. So start 2 days a week, 30 minutes. Find stuff you like to do, or at least that you don't hate to do, and do that stuff. And over time, experiment with doing other things and find other things you like to do. And for me, there's sort of like a gamification thing. And I talk to Grok every day after my workout and say, here's what I did. And I get a little bit of feedback. And it's not really that helpful, but it doesn't hurt. And I strategize, how am I going to do going forward? And so I really got into it. And I just want to encourage you to think about this. And there's diet also. Diet is my hard part. Wolf says that's pretty damn good for your age. No, 100 kilograms is good for any age. 100 kilograms. And look, I worked really hard on this for a very long time. And I've decided, by the way, I'm probably not going to, not that I'm not going to do any bench press at all again, but that's been a focus. And now I've accomplished that goal. And bench press isn't necessarily the best exercise to do when you're 60 years old or approaching 60 years old. I do a lot more dumbbells and dips. And I think for general joint health and for functional strength, there's other exercises I'm going to do. But it's like I accomplished that ego goal, and now I can, rather than saying, okay, now I need to do 105 kilograms, or I need to do 110 kilograms, or I need to get to 150 or whatever. It's like, okay, I can let all that go, and let me focus on the things that are healthier. 14.4 says, I'm adding to my home gym a treadmill to cover the days it's too cold or wet to walk. Yeah, figure out what cardio. Like I personally like recumbent exercise bike cardio. I don't like treadmills that much. I don't like stair climbers that much. I don't even like upright bike. For some reason, I just like recumbent exercise bikes. I'm spending a crap ton of money on a new, fairly high-end exercise bike because I got so good at cardio that I'm not like wrecking them, but I have too much power for the bikes at commercial gyms. That the gym at Jets Fitness that I used to go to in Bangkok, I was at level 30 doing my hard workout, and I tried to go to level 32 the next day, and it won't go over 30. And then the gym at my current gym, the bike doesn't go over. You press a number, and it tells you how fast you're going and what level you're at. It tells you how many watts you're pushing. And this bike maxes at 500 watts. It's like, now I don't need to do more, but I want to do more. For me, this is, I'm pushing myself. So I ordered a bike that goes to 750 watts. James says I come in peace. Okay, thanks, James. Thanks for joining. Carry groceries on the bus. Thank you, Mark. Okay, so let's move on. You've seen my vanity, my vanity on my lift. So Andrej Karpathy, for those who don't know, used to work for Tesla and is considered one of the leading minds in AI. There's plenty of leading minds in AI, but Andrej Karpathy has been one of the leading minds in AI, and particularly he trains people how to code an AI. He does videos about how to do things, and he just has a lot of insights into AI. We're going to talk about Starship, and we're going to talk about Neuralink coming up, and we're going to talk about another personal note later at the very end. So he talks about this point about people have a poor intuition for the space of intelligence is large, and animal intelligence is the only kind we've ever known. And it's a form of intelligence, but there's other forms of intelligence. It arises from a specific kind of optimization that is, if you get smarter, you are less likely to die and you're more likely to procreate. So animal intelligence optimization pressure comes from innate and continuous stream of consciousness, of embodied self, drive for homeostasis, self-preservation in dangerous physical world, optimized for natural selection, power seeking, blah, blah, blah. Fundamentally social, huge amount of compute is dedicated to emotional intelligence, theory of mind of other agents, bonding coalitions, exploration, exploitation, tuning, curiosity, fun play, world models. This is a little bit long and a little bit. I just like you should follow Andrei Karpathy and you should follow James Dalma. The most supervision bits come from statistical simulation. Oh, so then he talks about LLMs. LLMs are a different form of intelligence. It's not an animal form of intelligence. It's not driven by survival. It's not driven by reproduction. So what is it driven by? Most supervision bits come from the statistical simulation of human text. That's not how, I don't think that's how we learn. Humans learn, how animal intelligence learns. Statistical imitator of any region of the training data distribution. These are the primordial behaviors on top of which everything else gets bolted on. Increasingly fine-tuned by reinforcement learning. Innate urge to guess at the underlying environment task to collect task rewards. Increasingly selected by at-scale A/B tests for, I think that's usage by users. Deeply craves an upvote from the average user. It wants you to tell it it's doing a good job. A lot more spiky, jagged, depending on details of the training data. Animals experience pressure for a lot more general intelligence of the highly multitasking, even actively adversarial, multi-agent self-play environments, where failing at any task means death. When we make mistakes with our intelligence, we die, right? LLMs can't handle lots of different spiky tasks out of the box because failing to do a task does not mean death, right? Their evolutionary pressures, their optimization pressures are different. Computational substrate is different. Transformers versus brain tissue and nuclei. The learning algorithms are different. But most importantly, the optimization pressure objective is different. LLMs are shaped a lot less by biological evolution, a lot more by commercial evolution. It's a lot less survival of the tribe in the jungle and a lot more solve the problem, get the upvote. LLMs are humanity's, this is where I love this. LLMs are humanity's first contact with non-animal intelligence, except it's muddied and confusing because they're still rooted within it by reflexively digesting human artifacts, which is why I attempted to give it a different name earlier. People who build good internal models of this new intelligent entity will be better equipped to reason about it today and predict features of it in the future. People who don't will be stuck thinking about it incorrectly like an animal. And Elon says photon flow is what matters, which is, I think Elon's talking about real world AI. But I just think that's a good thought piece to really sort of dig in and say, well, wait a minute. When we try to understand artificial intelligence, can we separate it away from what human intelligence is? I'm always convinced, like, we're all like, is AI as smart as humans? Like, are we that smart? What kind of evolution is best suited for LLM? Well, in today's world, the best form of evolution for LLMs is commercial success, right? If you're running an LLM company, a company that makes LLMs, and you don't get customers paying for your product, for your service, for your products or service, then you go away. Brooke Chen says, I know Tesla is focused on autonomy. Want to know your prediction of the volume of car sales for Tesla by 2030 in a realistic and bull case scenario? I think Elon is pushing for 2.5 million in 2026, probably a little short of 4 million in 2027. I think that once Robotaxi gets rolling, then I think Elon may be sandbagging and we start to see cybercab factories being built. So I think 10 million a year is possible in 2030, and it might be more than that. It depends on whether Robotaxi takes off, whether Robotaxi gets adopted widely. And if the United States and China widely adopt Robotaxi, there's a room for a lot of Robotaxis between those two countries. If you add in Japan and you add in, if Europe wakes up and accepts Robotaxi, it's room for a lot of Robotaxis. You need a lot of cybercabs built. And then, I think the cybercab, once the first cybercab line is built, it's not going to be that hard to replicate it, and it's going to produce in very high volume very fast. So, but it's really hard to predict, like 2030. Well, like, what if it's 8 million in 2030, but it's 20 million in 2032? And I don't know how much it matters, because by the time Robotaxi really starts ramping, we're going to see that profit stuff coming, but Optimus is going to be ramping too. And I don't do price targets, David. I think that it's really hard to predict when markets will recognize the value. Just look at Apple. Look at when the iPhone took off in 2008 and how long it took the markets to catch. The markets still haven't, have the markets really caught? I think the markets may have finally overshot Apple's valuation. But if you look at the steep growth of Apple, like the market should have adapted earlier and priced up the stock earlier in order to account for what the iPhone was doing. And I think the same thing could be said for Nvidia. I've missed both of them, right? So I'm not claiming I'm smarter than others. Um, I would like to help Elon take over America. Yeah, I don't want to go there. Okay, so other positive news. Nolan Arbaugh is the first Neuralink patient, and he has now talked about, and Elon has endorsed the idea that they may do another implant in Nolan. It might be two implants, one in the brain and one below his spinal cord break, to see if he can regain movement of his existing limbs. Um, so if they're able to get him to restore movement in his lower body, Nolan will get limited value out of that because the technology isn't quite there yet to give, the full capacity that you'd want. But if it works, and I think there's no question it's going to work at some level, but if they're able to demonstrate that working, it could be a really big deal. Thank you, Globalismo. Elon might just speed run 12 trillion. No, Elon is speed running Kardashev too. Um, he's going way beyond that. Ilya Sutskyer is number one. Life is great in Thailand. We're having a good time. Vertex on X, Brian. I think Brian might still be watching. He and I had dessert today. I don't want to call it lunch. We had like dessert today, and we might have dinner tomorrow. I think we're having dinner tomorrow. Okay. So Nolan Arbaugh, I just think this is a really positive story. Nolan Arbaugh is the first Neuralink human patient. He's doing really well. He's been talking about how much better it's made his life, and he's optimistic about doing more. I think we're on 12 Neuralink patients that we know about. More is coming. Jim Whitehead says Kardashev 2 might take 1,000 years. Oh, I think Elon's looking at much quicker than 1,000 years for Kardashev 2. And, it doesn't have to be 100%. You don't have to get full Kardashev. If you get 10% of Kardashev 2, you're doing really well. Sorry, for those who aren't familiar with Kardashev, Kardashev 1 is using all the energy available to your planet. Kardashev 2 is using all the energy available to your solar system, which is pretty much all the energy put out by the sun, and it probably involves something like a Dyson sphere. Many, many satellites orbiting the sun, capturing solar energy, hopefully not blocking light from Earth, and using that as we see things today for developing superintelligence. Maybe the superintelligence will figure out other things to do with the energy. That's Kardashev 2, and Kardashev 3 is using all the energy of your galaxy, which that's more than 1,000 years. I did show Brian some great views. I didn't bother putting pictures here. If you go to my X account, WR4NYGov, or Brian's, which is Vertex, we both posted photos. There's this beautiful section of the Andaman Sea on the west side of Krabi province, an area called Ao Talain. And it's just these very calm waters with these beautiful islands. Really, like they're sort of like mountains, but they're not mountains, and they're just sort of sticking out of the water. And it's quiet. There's not a lot of boats for some reason. Scaling makes 1,000 years too long, 100%. Okay, so then Starship news. Unfortunately, Super Heavy was being tested. This is the first version of, I think, Starship Super Heavy version 3, and a tank ruptured. Now, no one was injured, but this was catastrophic failure of this particular booster. And here's a video of it. Yeah, that's not good. You don't want to see that. And that's unfortunate. It's not something that we wanted to happen. I don't think it was the valuable testing you necessarily want, but they probably, what SpaceX does is bad things happen and they learn from them. That's what SpaceX does. Bad things happen, they learn from when bad things happen. So SpaceX talked about this. First of all, they talked in advance of, we're about to do Booster 18's, the first Super Heavy version of 3, beginning pre-launch testing. Booster 18 suffered an anomaly during gas system pressure testing that we were conducting in advance of structural proof testing. No propellant was on the vehicle. Engines were not yet installed. Teams need time to investigate. Starbase teams plans to have the next Super Heavy boosters stacked in December, which puts it on pace with the test schedule planned for the first Starship V3 vehicle and associated ground systems. Starship's 12th flight test remains targeted for the first quarter of 2026. I forget the guy's name. There's an account on X who's, I guess, a Starship engineer, And he's not happy about it, and he was responding to some people criticizing it, but he's like, "There's more coming." They've got a factory building starships and super heavies, so there's more coming. Um, okay, and then the last thing I just wanted to mention on a personal note, um, I just posted this. I didn't know it would have this impact, but I just wanted to suggest this to people. So this isn't something new, okay? But I just had one of those moments where I thought about my family's past. So I was born into a family with a mother and a father. That's over here on the far side. This is my grandfather and his brothers, and that's my mother and me at the bottom left, and my brother and I. My brother's cut off a little bit in the photo, but my brother and I in the bottom right. So my oldest brother died when I was a kid. My father died, I don't know, 30 years ago. My mother and my brother died a few years ago. My mother was on her way out. She had Alzheimer's. In this photo here, she's got severe, in the far left there, she's left corner there, she's got severe Alzheimer's. She was on her way out. So that wasn't a shocker. It was a relief, really, that she passed peacefully and with, relatively little suffering. My brother was a shocker. 60 years old, um, coded as COVID. I think it was heart disease. That's a long conversation, but that was just a real shocker to have my brother pass. So that left me being the last one standing in the nuclear family that I was born into. I still have an uncle. I still have a few cousins. One of my cousins died. But in terms of the core family that I was born into, I'm it. Now I do have. I think people may not have figured this out. I do have two adult daughters who are living in the United States, and I'm happily married again, and I'm still friendly with my ex-wife, but I'm happily married, and we are working on having children. And I think by the end of 2026, we'll have our first child. Um, but I just wanted to express that thought that, like, it's important to look back and remember the people who brought you here. And so I just dwelled on that a little bit. I have a second post about my father. I'm planning to do a post about my mother, and then my brother Steve. Steve was active on X. Steve was active in the Tesla community. Steve went with me. One of the things I'm really happy about is my brother and I spent a fair amount of time together. We went to Cyber Rodeo together. We went to the Boring Company tunnels together. Um, we drove across the country together in the Model 3 that I bought from Omar's blog. And I think it's important to, like, keep that. It's because on a day-to-day basis, I don't think about my family anymore. My father's been gone for 30 years. I really haven't put a lot of thought into him lately. My mother and brother have been gone for 3 years. I think it's close to 3 years now. I'd have to look because they died fairly close in time to each other. And it's I think my brother died just before my mother. Um, and you're busy with life, but it's important to remember them. Jim says, I guess I'm lucky mom and dad passed and my two brothers and sister are still alive. I'm the oldest. Yeah, I mean, I think most people don't. At some point, somebody has to be the last one. I think, unfortunately, my brother died prematurely and he should have been with me for another 20 years. And he's a really good brother. Just fundamentally, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. He was just a really good brother. So, my father was the central figure in my life until he died. Like, anything I was doing in life, I would call my father. He was good to me. And if I was thinking about doing something, I would call him and talk to him about it. If I had an accomplishment, I would tell him about it. If I had something went wrong, I would talk to him about it. And he would, not always give the best advice. Like, I went to Japan. He died when I was living in Japan. He didn't want me to go to Japan. But he supported me. Did I stay with her in the same house and only moved out after she passed? My mother had a great, credit to her, she bought a really good, what do you call it, long-term care policy. So my mother, and did not want to, quote, in her words, be a burden on us. So with her long-term care policy, she lived in assisted living facilities. The policy was really good, so she lived in good ones. When COVID hit, unfortunately, that was harsh because COVID, the way the governments handled nursing homes and the nursing homes, it wasn't a nursing home, so assisted living facility. The way they handled elderly people in those situations wasn't great. I will confess, I was not supposed to visit my mother in person, but I knew which door was open at night. And I'm not saying I visited her frequently, but I did visit her in person when, in theory, I wasn't supposed to. And I think the statute of limitations had run. It wasn't a crime, whatever. And there were moments when they needed. My mother listened to me, and she didn't listen to other people. So there were moments when they needed her to do something, and they would call me and bring me in when they needed to get my mom to move or something. So, um, thank you, James. Um, ready for God to take me. Wow. No, I'm not ready for God to take me. I'm sticking around. I will say this, like when I talked earlier about going to the gym and partly seeing my brother, I wish my brother had exercised more. I wish my brother had been more aware of his cardio fitness and um, like I just got a transcranial ultrasound and a carotid ultrasound and um, I get myself there's a lot of these testing packages offered in Thailand, so I get myself checked a lot. And I want to stick around. I really believe that AI is going to take us over the edge, and if you live for another 10 years, you might never die, unless you want to, right? I think that there's a real opportunity to live much longer and enjoy the family that you do have much longer, and make an impact on the world and make life better for people for much longer. So very optimistic about the way things are going in the world. Next life will be better. I don't need to believe one way or the other about a next life. I just know I think I really enjoy this one. And yeah. Okay, so I've rambled long enough. I think we covered all the details. Just really quick, I want to go back over what I think was the biggest detail was Elon talking about we expect to build chips at higher volumes ultimately than all other AI chips combined. Read that sentence again, as I'm not kidding. um, yes, Wolf, exactly. Um, NVIDIA is planning on scaling massively. AMD is planning on scaling massively. I think it's Broadcom maybe is another one. I think Google has their chips, TSMC, and Elon has said all of these people are planning to grow AI faster. They're not going fast enough for what needs to happen in order to start pushing the Kardashev limits. So Elon has some idea for some terafab and some ideas about how he's going to put Starship together with Tesla's technology and who knows what else to really just go all out. And I think he's probably looking 10 plus years down the road to see some of the stuff he's talking about. But that terafab is probably coming online in 3 or 4 years, probably to make the AI 7 and AI 8 chips. And that's going to be a game changer. And you're going to need such a high volume of these chips for the robots, for the Optimus robots. You're going to need a high volume of the chips for the. I think you need a much higher volume of the chips for Optimus robots than you need for cars. Those who want to grow AI the fastest will need to manufacture the chips themselves. I think that may be the case. Yes, speed run 12 trillion at this point. I think he's speed running 100 trillion. You want to get to Mars. You need to do these things. You want to get to Kardashev. Start pushing Kardashev. You need to do these things. So I love Elon. Elon gets me really excited about the future. So I hope you all are really excited about the future too. Build more chips than CS. Yes, he's going to build more chips than TSMC and Samsung combined. Yes, he's got some big ideas. People talked about Tesla opening a chip fab for a while, and I think the thing is that while they were just building chips for cars, they didn't need enough chips to justify having their own fab. But once you anticipate building 100 million chips a year for Optimus or 1 billion chips a year for Optimus, and then you're going to build AI data centers in space, all of a sudden you need a really, really, really high volume of chips. And that's the game changer. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Thank you to Jim and Mark for moderating the chat. Will he buy Intel or build his own? I think he's going to build his own, Brian. I think Intel's toast. Intel's done. Stick a fork in him. But we'll talk about that tomorrow, Brian. All right. Thanks, everybody, so much for watching. We'll talk to you all again soon. Bye-bye.